Okay, Ozonics Killerwinds podcast back again. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
This is the third time we've done the intro.
Yep.
Because we just kind of get rambling off on random stuff. So this time we're going to try to keep it on task.
Yeah, and Cole's just struggling today.
Man, I am just not finding the motivation.
And I'm worried because I was sick all weekend, and I think I maybe passed it on to him, and he gave me a lot of threats if he gets sick.
It's very clear, though. Let's be clear, not a lot of threats. I've given you one threat a bunch of times.
Yes.
If I get sick, which I'm starting to feel not sick, I'm starting to feel tired.
Which isn't good.
If I get sick, I am going to ninja chop you with my right hand. This right here, see this between my pinky and the bottom of my palm? I'm going to ninja chop you right in the neck hole.
Okay.
Like hard.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give you warning.
Yeah,
I might even come up from behind you.
It's
and
not
jump
good.
in the air like I'm like Hercules and then ninja chop you.
The more I think about it, we maybe shouldn't be doing this right now because we're talking really close to each other.
Oh no, I'm aware. We're way too close. We're breaking all the sanitary regulations.
Yeah.
This is not OSHA approved right now.
Nah. I should probably have a mask on.
Yeah, and you probably shouldn't be using the mic that you're contaminating. God. You're laughing. I don't think it's funny at all. You need to take health seriously.
Tough this time of year, man.
Health and safety.
It's tough this time of year.
You got to be safe and healthy, not for yourself, but for other people too. You got to be respectful.
My immune system is compromised.
You're a compromised immune system.
No.
But yeah, you definitely came down with something.
Yeah.
Man, terrible.
Yeah, it sucked.
So we were hunting Saturday morning. Holy cow. So did we see any deer? No, probably not.
No, we did. We saw deer.
That was the sloppiest like sniffling sounds I've ever heard in my entire life. If I would have looked back, I thought I was just going to see snot like all over your face from your nose to like your chin.
It was so bad.
Dude.
I felt so bad up there. Sick bad, and I just was really worried that Cole was going to lose his mind at me.
Yeah, and
Because I was sniffling a lot.
I think I threatened you with a ninja chop that day too.
Yeah, probably.
And I've threatened you with a ninja chop 3 times lately. I've threatened you for a ninja chop. We have a current ninja chop threat right now with this whole sickness. We had a ninja chop threat with you sniffling in the tree stand, and we had another ninja chop threat when we were riding in the truck and you were yawning.
Yeah,
That was a serious one. So much so that I wouldn't let you yawn for like 15 minutes. It was awesome.
it's terrible. This guy just... If anything's not going his way, get ready for a ninja chop.
If things aren't going the way they should be going, not my way, the way they should go.
I was tired.
Unbelievable.
I was tired, and you didn't like it.
So when we were in the stand, you're sitting there, and you were just like, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't even make the noise. It was terrible. I don't think anybody could recreate it. It was so disgusting. And you're like, I've got to blow my nose. And I was like, all right. I'm like.
Sacrificed a stocking cap.
So you sacrificed your coat of silence.
That's all I had.
Stocking cap.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was brutal. And then it just continually got worse and worse.
I was gonna say, I think you just broke the seal.
Yeah.
Then you had to do it like 2 or 3 more times.
Yeah, and then after we got home, I took a nap and I woke up and I'm like, whoa, I'm really sick.
Yeah.
Then it was a long couple days of Cole hunting and not me.
And me calling you and saying, hey man, so yeah, I just had a really crazy, awesome day. Tons of rut activity. And you're like, great. Thanks for calling.
Yeah. Thanks for the update, man. Makes me feel so much better.
You could tell you were mad.
Yeah.
Your words sounded kind, but your tone was mean.
Well, I wasn't mad. I was just disappointed.
Yeah.
Because it really sucked to not be out there.
But yeah, I think that's kind of the question. Our first question here is how is the rut going? What's the rut update for our area, right? We're in north central Iowa. I would definitely say, from my perspective, we are, and what I'm seeing out there is we are smack dab in the rut. We're not in the pre-rut. We're not in the post-rut. We are in the rut.
Yeah. And I think it's been kind of fun this year because I've been telling Cole this kind of the last couple of days. It's like this is the first time I feel like I've really experienced every single stage of the rut, feels like, because at home right now, this time of year is super hard at home.
Yep.
It's really tough to hunt. But like this year, I mean, man, we saw everything. We saw chasing, a lot of pre-rut activity, but I'd say it felt short though.
Yeah, it felt like the pre-rut was a really, really, really tight little window.
Yeah.
Where it just went from like, we were in that October lull, like really lulling, and it was warm, and then it broke cold there in the end of October, and then that really kind of, no pun intended, but it kind of heated things up.
Yeah.
And then, but then it kind of got warm again.
Yeah.
And it felt like it really kind of spiked there for a second, and then it got warmer, and then it kind of slowed down again. And then it was probably about this time last week. I think it was like last Tuesday. I think I snuck out like a couple hours before, like we were done with work. I think I got out to stand like 2:30 or something, and boom! All of a sudden, it was like bucks chasing.
Yeah,
like that was the first time I'd really seen bucks chasing, and man, they were chasing.
Yeah,
it was like full on, like cover and country, chasing does just all over the place.
And even a couple hunts before that too. We didn't see chasing, but we saw a lot of bucks on their feet.
Yep,
just moving around, kind of getting ready for that true pre-rut hit. And then we had a couple hunts where it was like, seems like they're chasing for sure.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it just kind of shut off.
And then the scrapes started to come everywhere.
Yeah.
And then all the cameras, I moved some cameras on scrapes. You already had cameras on scrapes.
Yeah.
And then the scrapes just went, they blew up.
Yeah.
And now we are in the peak of the rut, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, when we've been out, like I said, over the weekend, especially like on Sunday morning when you didn't go,
yeah,
I saw 12 bucks.
Yeah.
Before 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
There was a buck on Saturday afternoon when I went back out there that had a doe pinned down in the middle of the cornfield.
Yeah.
Went out there the next morning and they were still there.
Yeah.
He was standing over that doe right near her like a statue.
Yeah.
I mean, just standing there like a statue, not moving a muscle. All these other little bucks would come within a couple hundred yards and he would just turn and look. He'd look back at her and they would just get inside that bubble and then he would just run them off.
Yeah.
And actually on Saturday night, I actually saw a buck breed a doe on the neighboring property in this big open bean field. They're right on the horizon. Mm-hmm. And I literally watched her he bumped her out in the middle and she finally just stopped and stood. And then he got close enough to her and he mounted her and did his thing. And that was that.
Yeah.
And so they're right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's funny too because it's like they're right in the middle of it. All signs of like true rut activity or like true middle of rut activity. I feel like it's like you're seeing the bucks, but you're seeing younger bucks on their feet and moving around.
Yep.
But you're not seeing those mature bucks just because they're so keyed in on those does.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. I think I felt like middle of last week we saw a lot more does. And then, because like that one hunt we saw like 8 or 9 does.
Yep.
And then that big guy kind of bumping them around.
Yep.
That nice 8-pointer. And then we hunted there the next day. And I think we saw like 2 or 3 does only.
Yeah. And now, like even when I've been out of the weekend, it was just like, if you see does, they hit the edge of the field and then those little bucks chase them off. They're kind of running for their lives. If you're seeing a doe, she's not really walking, she's running right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, just like the rut usually goes, when these does finally start getting harassed, they usually just kind of hunker down.
Yeah.
And it seems like the only thing you see is bucks, and that's what we're seeing right now is a lot of bucks.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of why I'm getting, like I said, a bit tired, a bit frustrated, is because I feel like, it's been like Dink City.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going out there and you're seeing lots of deer and lots of small bucks.
Yeah.
But those big guys they're just locked down.
Yeah.
And so it's not that we're not seeing rut activity. And I think sometimes when it locks down to the point where you just don't see anything.
Yeah.
But we're still seeing stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot of dinks.
Yeah. And I think you even see that on the cameras too. It seemed like last week, earlier in the week, at least at a spot that we've talked about where we got all those bucks on camera.
Yep.
That big guy was there twice last week.
Yeah.
Middle of the night still, but
Yep.
on scrapes. And then we actually had a new buck show up that I filmed in the summer and then got him for the first time last week on a scrape.
Yep.
2 days in a row, and then there has been like nothing but dinks on it.
Shut down.
Yeah, I mean, not even really hitting the scrapes either.
Well,
so
and that's another indicator of just the rut
evolving
and moving along,
yeah.
right? The scrapes get real good during the end of the pre-rut and when they really start to, right before they hit the rut. And then as soon as the rut really kicks in, the scrapes get pretty inactive because the does have already kind of went over there, made their mark. They found the buck that's going to kind of do their thing with them, and they take them off.
Yep.
And then the scrapes get real quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we're kind of feel like we're just kind of waiting for this lockdown and
this
where these
period to kind of
because these those does come in for what 24 hours. You know, they come in and they get chased before, and then they breed, and then they kind of get chased around after.
Yeah.
Once we get through that, and I've always said, and we talked about this on the last podcast, when we travel around for the consumer shows, people find out that we're from Iowa. Like, oh, Ozonics is in Iowa. You're from Iowa. It's like, yeah. And people always ask, like, oh man, I got 4 points. I'm going with an outfitter, or I'm trying to come do public land. Like, when should I go?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when's the best time to be there? When's the best time?
Yeah.
And you hear some guys that talk about, the week of Halloween, and then other guys say, man, November 7th and 8th are my magic days,
Yeah.
For whatever reason, my experience, I always say November in the teens.
Yeah.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It seems like, from my experience, the really, really big guys, the ones that you're really, really after, for whatever reason, we're out of that pre-rut, and we're kind of on the other side of the bell curve of the rut, and those bucks have started to lose their does, and they're still interested, and they're still wanting to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And those bucks will be those big ones will be on their feet. Kind of those toads will be out walking around during the day before they switch back to that kind of nocturnal pattern.
Right.
And so, like you said, we're right in the middle of that right now. Gosh, I don't even know. What's the date today? It's like the 14th.
14th, yeah.
Yeah, so it's November 14th. So we're right in the smack middle of it,
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like one of those things, and I say this a lot too, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just trying to do that.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been working pretty dang hard. I think that's where I'm just getting a little like, gosh.
A little bit run down.
Yeah. I'm not tired of hunting. Like, I love hunting. I'm just tired of not seeing what I'm looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's just part of it.
And I think the big thing this time of year is I think that seat time is still really critical because you just don't know when that big buck is going to get off that doe.
Yep.
It could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be Friday, it could be the weekend. It's just you kind of got to be there when it happens, I feel like.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I would say too that I've noticed here in the last few days, especially just over this last weekend. And I think I don't know if my brother-in-law Justin talked about. Yeah, he did. He rattled. Yeah, he had texted me. He was out, I think, on Saturday afternoon, and he texted me, said, or was it Saturday morning?
Saturday morning.
Yeah. He's like, hey, I just rattled and had 2 different times, had $3 each time, or a couple different bucks just barreling in. I'm like, okay. So then I, rattled a few times over the weekend. Same thing.
Yeah.
I took Jed out with me on Sunday night, and of course he wants to do everything, right? So he wants to do the little can, doe bleat. So I'm letting him do that just a couple times, and then I'm like, all right, you want to rattle? So he wants to rattle. So he rattles, and then, he's like, oh, you do it. So then I'm kind of showing him what I do, and it wasn't but 5-10 minutes, and it was $4 on the field.
Yeah.
They just all just came marching right in.
Yeah.
And so, for whatever reason, rattling. And again, when I was out Sunday morning, first light just came up, and that doe and buck that were out there on Saturday evening were in almost the exact same spot Sunday morning. And then there was 2 dinks that were just going at it for 5-10 minutes, like right a couple yards away from me. I mean, they were really squaring off, making a ton of racket.
Yeah.
And then, later on in the morning went on, I had a little forky that came out from my right side, walked out in the middle of the field right in front of me at like 40.
Yeah.
And a spiker came from, I'm pretty sure it was a spike. He had this kind of weird thing on his left side, so I just wasn't going to chance it. But he came from 600, 700 yards away, walked through this big cornfield, jumped the fence, came through this cornfield, walked right over that forky, put his ear straight back, and just did the old side step, Willie wide-eyed,
Yeah.
And then they didn't fight, but they just kind of moved off.
Yeah.
And so you can definitely see that aggressiveness, the aggression of what's indicative of that magic time of the rut.
Yeah.
I think we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think to your point, you never know. And that's, I think, why we try to keep going when we can.
Yeah.
It's like you never know when all of a sudden you're out there and you look up and you're like, there he is,
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
or you just get him where all of a sudden that doe just turns left instead of right,
Yeah.
and she's running right at you,
Yep.
and he's trailing behind her.
Yep. Exactly.
So it's just that time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. The one other thing I would say that's interesting around in this area for us, like I said, we saw the scrapes get really good kind of the second half. I always talk about like the pre-rut, the rut, and the post-rut, almost like there's a beginning, middle, and an end of each phase.
Yeah.
So if you look at it like 9 parts, right?
Yeah.
I feel like at the towards the end of the pre-rut is when the scrapes really got hot.
Yeah.
Man, they were really picking up. I was like, holy guacamole, here we go. But the interesting thing is when we were out last weekend, when we saw those 2 good bucks that we had on camera,
Yep.
and then we had them on the hoof
Yeah.
in the morning.
Yep.
This nice 8 and this, we call him highbrow buck.
Yeah.
And that highbrow buck went to that fence and he like raked on a tree just for a quick sec,
Yeah.
and then jumped the fence into those cedars.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is I haven't seen diddly for rubs.
Yeah. I haven't either.
But the interesting thing is my brother-in-law is hunting 20, 30 miles to
Yeah.
the west.
Yep.
And walked in there the other day and it was just rubs everywhere. He was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, it's just rub city in here.
Yeah.
And big trees, like trees you're like, dang,
Yeah.
but we just haven't seen any of that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how it can kind of change from place to place.
Yeah. It can kind of differ from place to place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I was really kind of hesitant to do, and then talking to my brother-in-law here, and he was having luck with it, is kind of like blind rattling.
Yeah.
You're just like, man, do you blind rattle? Do you just try to sit here and just kind of be out of sight, out of mind?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I'd done. I had blind rattled like once or twice, but very, very little.
Yeah.
But then this last weekend, I kind of picked that up and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't had much luck grunting, snort wheeze. None of that's worked for me.
Yeah.
I haven't, and a lot of times on those bigger deer, that can get really hard.
Yeah.
But even on, when I've just, like we saw the highbrow buck and we grunted and snort wheezed at him and he looked and didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
He just lollygagged off. He's like,
Yeah.
nope, I'm good.
Yeah.
It wasn't where he just all of a sudden you're like, oh, here he comes.
Yeah.
He just wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's, like you said, November 14th, the great thing about Iowa is we've got the rest of this week, we've got Thanksgiving week, and then we have the whole week after that
Yeah.
before the gun seasons come in. So we still have a lot of time. I think from my perspective, if there's 3 phases of the pre-rut, 3 phases of the rut, and 3 phases of the post-rut, I think we're smack dab in the middle of the rut.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like we're just smack dab in the middle
Yeah.
of it. And I hope that once we get to that end of the rut and we get to that beginning of the post-rut, man, that's when I hope that we can really try to capitalize.
Yeah.
And it's funny because from my experience, that's a heck of a good time to see those big ones on their feet, but you just got a really, really tight little window before it's kind of razor edge thin
Yeah.
where they just go from daylight to, oh, now they're at dark again.
Yeah.
and then it's
exactly.
over.
Yep.
But yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's, I think sometimes the whitetail rut, like a lot of hunting and a lot of rut hunting, whether it's you're hunting the rut for elk or whitetails or whatever type of animal it is, it's like running. I hate running while I'm in the middle of it. I enjoy the feeling when it's done and I enjoy the feeling of accomplishment, but it's kind of like a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I feel like I'm at right now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm loving it, but I'm hating it.
Yeah.
I really want to get in front of something.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
and hopefully we can,
Yeah,
but, and
exactly.
if we don't, it's okay too.
Yeah. And it takes one hunt.
Yeah.
One deer.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
But I think that's a great segue into kind of the next part. And we've kind of been touching on that as we've been going here is what we've been seeing on trail camera. There's been some interesting things.
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what, thank goodness for cell cams.
Yeah.
I mean, they have really given us some great intel this
yeah.
year and have really helped us see what we've got out there, which they do that every year. But I
Yeah.
just feel like this year I don't know, I feel like it's been hitting a little different.
Yeah.
Because we've had some nice deer on camera on some spots that, like we talked about in previous podcasts, that were kind of overlooked. That we're just like, oh, well, we'll see what we can see. It looks good. And then
Yeah.
here, on the one public spot, we've had a couple more new bucks that have showed up that we would definitely
Yeah.
put an arrow through if we had a chance.
Yeah.
And at the other public spot, how many are you up to now? We're at like 45?
I think it's 44.
Okay, 44.
Yeah.
I thought that one that you just that heavy
8-pointer.
Yeah,
I think that was 44.
Okay.
I'd have to look.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, so we'll actually put a cool video up right here. We've got a couple videos of him. Ding ding of a buck on one of the public spots. And on the first video that we'll play, you can't really tell. It doesn't look like he's kind of walking with a little bit of a limp.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look that bad.
Yeah.
But he's a great deer. Heavy
deer.
Yeah. Mature deer.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. And he's limping and he's trying to kind of make this scrape with what looks like a pretty bummed up leg.
Yeah.
But then the next video, you see him walking straight away and his leg is
it's so weird.
It's kicking in terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really kicking in. And we actually got him on video a few days or like a week later.
Yeah.
I don't know how many days later, but we'll show both videos. That time he was using his left leg scraping like it was nobody's business.
Yeah.
So it's just weird. I don't know. And we've watched it a bunch of times. At first I was like, man, was he born that way?
Yeah.
But you know, the more I look at it, it almost looks like he got hit by a car.
That's what I think. I think he got clipped or something.
Yeah, and it's the perfect height for like a car bumper.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like it almost just like it hit him and he just kind of went out like that and then got thrown off to the side of the road.
Yeah.
But really too bad.
Yeah.
Because he's a great deer.
Yeah.
You think about that too, all those years that he's out there.
Yeah, and then that
surviving.
happens. Yeah.
He crosses a road and smack.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
and so that kind of got us kind of thinking like, oh, we could talk about that on the podcast. And so it's funny, one of the bigger bucks that we have on camera where we got the 44 bucks or whatever, one of the real big ones, probably our second biggest with the drop tine. After looking at video of him, he's got some weird growth.
Like a cyst or something.
Yeah, it's weird. And we were looking at it too, and we are like, gosh, it almost looks like he got gored maybe or something. But we looked back to the first night we had him, and it was there too.
Yep.
So it's just a really interesting kind of deal. I'm curious as to what it is.
Yeah, it's just like a big bulge.
Yeah.
Like it's got fluid or some sort of something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at home, I had a buck all summer. And actually, my neighbor just told me he had it in his backyard. I hadn't seen him for well over a month, but just a wicked deer. Mm-hmm. He had to have gotten hit by a car, I would guess. But
yeah, either that or he got shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Shoulder shot or
Yep.
something.
You just never know. But he's got a beautiful left side, and then his right side is just basically three just tall points, basically.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy how their body works like that. But
I know how if they get hit on the left side, it affects their right side and vice versa.
Yeah. So.
Yep, that's pretty wild.
And the really cool thing is we had a bobcat on camera last night.
Yeah. So, like I said, I grew up in North Central Iowa, lived here pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
And been using trail cameras and cell cameras for a while. And I've never seen a bobcat around here.
Yeah.
Seen them in Southern Iowa a lot, a lot in Southern Iowa.
Yep.
Especially when you get into like late muzz season and you see a lot of bobcats around.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of bobcat tracks in Southern Iowa and everything else. Never seen a bobcat here. Mm-hmm. And we 100% had a bobcat walk right by the camera.
Yeah.
And it's a good looking bobcat.
Yeah,
it's not a dink.
Looks like a bigger one.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I was kind of I was telling you before, I think I probably will call the DNR and just say, hey, just so you know.
Well,
then they're probably going to say, oh, yeah, we've gotten reports or,
Yeah.
Whatever. But it's just still nice to let them know. It's like, hey, this is where we were. This is where we saw it. If you want to have the video, it's here.
Yeah. Well, and we kind of went on and Cole did some research on, if there's even a bobcat season. There's not even a bobcat season in our county.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah,
it must be kind of rare.
Yeah. Well, there's not enough bobcats to make a sustainable season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they don't want them. They don't, you could probably hunt them and then we would kill them all.
Yeah.
There's not
exactly.
a sustainable number that you could harvest.
Yeah.
But yeah, like all of the northern half of Iowa is no bobcat hunting.
Yeah.
And then the bottom 3 tiers of counties, you can bobcat hunt. You could take like 3 bobcats per person per county.
Yep.
And then the up above that, there's like 1 tier of counties. The 4th tier up, basically almost across the state, it's all gray.
Yeah.
That's 1 per county.
Yeah.
Per person per county.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you could definitely go down there and do some bobcat hunting, but it was just crazy to see him here. And if you ever, tell you what, you want to watch some cool videos, get on YouTube and Google bobcat stalking up on a deer. Oh, baby.
Yeah.
That's something to see.
Yeah.
I mean, they're cold-blooded killers.
Yeah, we, where I lived last year in Iowa was eastern Iowa, we'll call it. But we had one in our backyard like 2-3 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. we'd see them a lot. And then one of the other interns at Midwest Whitetail during the hunt, he had some insane footage of a bobcat climbing up a tree and then stocking up on some raccoons.
Oh yeah.
And the raccoons actually chased him off.
Oh yeah.
It was super. It was
mean.
Really cool stuff. But so where I was last year, there was definitely some bobcats in the area for sure.
Yeah, bobcat hunting's pretty fun. Done a bit of that. So we did a lot of night bobcat hunting.
Yeah.
And we did some during the day too, but man, they are skitty critters.
Yeah.
I think that's why, especially on here, obviously, I mean, or even down there, you don't see them very easily.
Yeah.
I could probably find the video. I know I have it on my phone, but I had a bobcat walk right underneath my stand. I was in southern Iowa.
Yeah.
Walked right underneath the stand.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know at that time if there was a bobcat season.
Yeah.
So I didn't obviously have a tag, so just let him walk off.
Yep.
But then I saw that you could get a tag.
Yeah.
So then after that, I bought one. I was like, well, you never know, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But of course, haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty small one. I could tell it was just really, really small.
Yeah. Yeah. There's where Uncle Zip hunts. They've been seeing one. Benny Zip's son. He saw it twice from the stand this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty good size one too.
Yeah.
Just cruising around up in Wisconsin.
Yep.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's cool to see them. It's something you don't see every day for sure.
Well, and I think that's the cool thing too is we don't have very many predators here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look back at environmental history, and if you look at the state of Iowa 200 years ago, 250 years ago, 300 years ago, whatever, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
When people started coming across and exploring, and because at one point Iowa was the West.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything.
Right.
They didn't know what was west of it.
Yeah.
But there was grizzly bears, there was wolves, there was elk, there was bison, there was all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't have much of that left.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's neat that bobcats are here. I think it's kind of cool. I mean,
yeah,
I don't walk into the woods pretty much ever when I'm here, really worried about much.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about a bobcat either, but it's just kind of neat to know that they're out there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yep.
But yeah, like I said, I think the cameras have been, like we talked about earlier, have gotten slower.
Definitely slower.
Yep. I mean, what we're seeing is dinks.
Yeah.
And we're seeing dinks during the day.
Yeah.
I mean, like just today I had a dink on camera at like 9 something.
Yeah.
Just kind of cruising by a scrape. But yeah, they're definitely locked down.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, no does. If you see a doe, you see a blur. Them jumping, them running. They're not stopping. They're on the move because they're getting chased.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it'll start to switch again here. And like I said, scrapes could heat up a little bit again for a short time where those bucks are kind of cruising and checking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and it's neat to see kind of some cool stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Regardless of size.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Trail cams are fun.
Yeah.
But the next thing we were going to talk about was, I'll tell you what, and I said this to you before. I'm going to go on the record. This is important.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that my fellow compadre, also known as Ozonics hunting content creator, Nick Simon, dude, you might have created an entirely new category.
What can I say?
Listen, they say the best inventions aren't thought of, right? Just to be thought of.
Yeah.
They solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, what you're doing is solving a problem.
Yeah, I know.
You've had a big problem all season.
Yeah.
You can't get comfortable in a tree stand.
I can't.
Cannot do it. You can't get comfortable. You'd be 3 feet off the ground. If you're standing on a tree stand platform, you're not comfortable.
That's a stretch.
No, it's not.
That's a stretch.
No.
That's a stretch.
Okay. We had on the guys from Code of Silence yesterday, the last podcast, and they said that the average height of a tree stand hunter in the United States is 14.8 feet.
I'd be fine at that height.
No way.
Yes, I would. Dude,
unbelievable.
I hung a set at home, 3 sticks high and a hang on, and I'm perfect up there.
Yeah, that was probably 12 feet if you were lucky.
Oh.
But the moral of the story is that you probably invented you didn't actually do it. I did it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to just let you have it.
A
new category.
New category. Tree stand saddle hunting.
That's not even what.
Saddle tree stand hunting?
No.
Traddle.
No. Saddle standing.
Saddle standing.
Boom.
Oh. Top right. Yeah.
Saddle standing.
Yep. I mean, I'll probably catch some smoke for this,
Oh,
but
no.
it works so good.
So here's
It's perfect.
So here's what we're talking about, okay? So as we've been trying to film this fall, we've gone through quite a iteration, revolution, evolution of what and how we set up
Yeah.
filming. Because just going out and hunting, and I knew this before, but that the realization has really smacked me in the face this year that just hunting and filming hunting is so much different.
Yeah.
Just so much different.
Yeah.
You know, we went in the spring and summer and kind of looked at all my sets. The thing of it is I have a lot of tree stands on some pieces of private ground.
Yeah.
And I have a few extra stands kind of sitting in the garage.
Yeah.
So that, you know, the idea is like as the summer came into the fall, it's like, oh, we'll put up a single set if it's on some public land spots once it gets within the 7-day window of the hunting season, because you can't put them out there beforehand. We'll put some single sets up and then we'll just set a stand when we get in there for a double.
Yeah.
So that's really what we've been doing.
Yeah.
I think what we figured out right off the bat as we started filming hunting for whitetails here in Iowa is that it is really hard to not be super loud.
Yeah.
Yep. So one of the things we did right off the bat is we had a Novix stand.
Yep.
That's the Alpha hang-on Novix stand. I think that's what it's called.
I think it's the Hilo.
That's the small one.
The Echo then.
Oh, okay. It used to be called the Alpha.
That's the Lone Wolf.
Okay. They have a new name for it.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
To Novix and everyone involved for getting the name wrong. Thank you, Nick. Whatever it's called.
Crush.
Shaya! We need to get that on here. Hi-ya! Ninja Chop. That was Ninja Chop worthy. You should have taken advantage of it. That was your only chance. Yeah. No, but so we've been using a Novix stand. Which one is it?
The Echo.
There you go. What was that?
The Echo.
What? You hear that? That was an echo.
Whatever the bigger one is.
What was that? I'm just kidding. So, but what we found out right off the bat, even just using that stand is, and it is quiet stand. I mean, it works pretty good. But when you're pulling it up a tree stand and then you've got our tree stand already sitting there and there's branches and it's clinking and clanking, it just makes a lot of noise. So what I ended up doing is I took a bunch of paracord and I wrapped it around the outer bar of that platform and the outer rim of the seat.
Yep.
Ended up being 175 feet of paracord.
and
don't want to do that again.
And you put stealth strips on like the main bar.
Yep. And I used a bunch of stealth strips on the bar between the platform and the seat, and really quieted it down the absolute best I could.
Which it worked great too.
Yeah.
That thing is dead quiet.
Yep. Just so if it does clank against the other stand or it clanks against a tree or whatever, when it shuts on itself, it doesn't make any noise. I mean, it's like it went from like a clank to like just like a really, really quiet thud.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we actually have some video where we showed like using it beforehand.
Yeah.
And then boop, there it is done.
Yeah.
And it's way quieter. We can probably put that in there.
Boom.
Yeah. All right. We're on a mission to make this tree stand quieter. This is the Novix stand that we've been running this fall. We've had great luck with it. It's an awesome stand, but right out of the box, it's a little bit loud, right? So if you close this thing up, and if you're walking with it, it just kind of clinks and clanks. Like I said, meaning Nick and I, are hunting together a lot this fall, and we're trying to film hunts and create content. And part of the thing is that I don't have doubles set in every spot. I've just got my stand set up, and it's ready for a double, but what I end up doing is I just pull the tree stand up and I set the other stand that morning or afternoon when we hunt. And, when it sits there and clinks and clanks on accident, which is really my fault, right? It's loud. And so we are going to try to do everything we can to make this stand quieter, really with the only regard being quieter. I don't care how much weight it adds. I'm just worried about making it as quiet as humanly possible. So we are going to try to do everything we can within reason to make this thing quieter. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey, where'd you come from?
Editing, man.
Well, here it is.
This looks awesome.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yep, it's pretty good.
So it took about 200 feet of paracord.
Yep.
Wrapped around the base of it, all over the base, around, and then it's wrapped around the seat as well, around the outside of the seat, so that when you shut it down, I mean, it's just hard to make any noise. It's a lot quieter. It's just
Try and make a lot of noise.
if I try, it doesn't.
I mean, but that,
Yeah, compared to what it was before.
yeah, it's way better.
And I have it tightened up a little bit more than it was before. So if
And plus, the big thing too is I think is like when you're walking in, it's kind of just making those little tinks and tanks.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
But with this on there, I think that's going to completely mitigate it.
I was gonna put paracord here as well, down through this.
Yeah.
But then the big thing I was trying to avoid is if I did that, when I shut it, it wouldn't. I didn't think it was gonna shut properly
Right.
because you can see it's pretty tight through there. But yeah, it's pretty dang quiet. And then to hold it,
Not much heavier at all either.
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of feel it, but
2 rolls of paracord heavier.
yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, if you go like this and you hear it, there's just not. I mean, it's just pretty dang. But you can see, pretty sweet. Yeah, so like I said, there's lots of different ways to skin the cat when it comes to this. And, you know, if you really want to get crazy, you could probably put some of this quiet tape on your straps as well, like the buckles. You know what I mean? So where it buckled in, those straps didn't actually ting. But I think the big thing is when you're pulling this up when I'm pulling this up in a tree, we're setting it up, we're carrying it through the grass or through the woods, it's just not going to ting as bad. It's just a lot quieter to the touch. Even when you go like this, you hear that. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lot quieter. Like I said, lots of different ways you can do this. That's what we tried.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do too. I mean, we did to all of our, or Cole did it to our camera arm too.
Yeah.
And it's just anything to just reduce noise while you're up there. Because, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a lot of stuff that you're kind of moving around and flinging around the tree and stuff. And, like,
Yep.
things get bumped.
Yeah.
And so anything to make it a little quieter is huge.
Yeah. So like I said, looks good, and I think it's going to be kind of functional.
Yep.
Boom. Anyway, so that's one thing we did right off the bat is just trying to figure out, man, we got to figure out a way to be quieter. Like we want to get out here and we're doing all this, but then we're scaring them all away.
Yeah.
Or felt like we were. So that worked out pretty good off the bat. But still, even in that situation, for whatever reason, you just didn't feel comfortable on a stand.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I will admit, I'm not doing the 14.8 feet high.
No.
I'm usually 20 plus feet high.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yep.
Like I go high.
Yeah.
That's just, for whatever reason, my experience has taught me that the higher you go, the better off you are.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it makes for real steep angled shots, you know? Yeah. And I think too, I've noticed the last couple years since I used to hunt with a recurve exclusively, and that I was usually only probably about 15 to 18 feet high because a really steep angle with a recurve is tough.
Yeah.
You know, if you're getting angles like this, that kind of stinks. If you're getting angles like this, that's a lot better. So I was usually that 18 to 20 feet with a recurve bow. But now with a compound, I don't know. I feel like the higher I get, the farther out I can shoot a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so I've just started hunting the last probably 4 or 5 years a lot higher.
Yeah.
And so you don't like heights.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like, I love flying. Like, I've never been like, oh, I'm afraid of heights.
Like you don't mind, you're flying an airplane, you're good.
Yeah, like I've never had that.
Hot air balloon.
I've never, like, when people ask you, are you scared of heights? I'm like, no.
Squirrel suit. Skydiving.
Yeah. Roller coasters.
Hang glider. Have you hang glided?
No.
Oh, I thought you had.
Okay.
Just kidding. You look like a hang glider.
Oh, I know. I'm built for it, but yeah, and it's funny too because like I grew up hunting my entire life out of tree stands, but it was always just ladder stands.
Yep.
So that's your 14 to 17 foot high.
Like the normal go to the sports shop and get your 15-foot ladder, double ladder.
Yep, and that's all I had ever hunted out of until last year, I hunted primarily out of a saddle when I was filming for Midwest Whitetail.
Yep.
And it was relatively the same height.
Yep.
Typically-ish. Not near as high as we were going this year. And I felt really comfortable last year. I mean, it took me a little bit just because it is still a different feeling just being in a saddle compared to, and, climbing up tree sticks and whatnot. It's a lot different. But I got used to it, and I was fine. Mm-hmm. Then I get here, and we're like way up there and hang on. Just two things that I've never done, and it was an issue, big issue. I'll be the first to say it.
And I will say too that I will admit I have the tendency to. I don't try to find the right tree. I try to find the right spot.
Yeah.
Which I think I didn't really realize I was that way, but I think you've made that very clear.
Yeah.
That I'm usually the guy, and I think there's different chains of thought. I think some people go out and they look for the right tree. They're like trying to find the right tree. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I go, where do I want to be? Where are the deer going to be? Mm-hmm. I always talk about hunting the wind and hunting the deer. I go, where are the deer going to be? Where am I going to hunt the deer?
Yeah.
So I find the right spot.
Yeah.
And then I try to make a tree work.
Yeah.
So a couple of my spots, climbing up them, it's kind of like a jungle gym. It gets a little.
Gosh.
There's one in particular, we call it the corner spot, that
it's just great spot. Great spot.
Hey, it's a great spot.
But, oh my God.
It's
half the climb, you're like on your belly going up the sticks.
No, so here's what happens. The tree goes up a little bit. Then it angles this way.
Pretty severely.
Yeah, not horizontal, but definitely not vertical.
Yeah.
More of like a diagonal.
Yeah.
You go diagonal for a while, then you go back vertical again.
Yeah.
Then it's maybe a little more diagonal.
Yeah.
And then you hit the tree where like you get to the main trunk where it splits off to all the canopy branches. Yeah. That's where we are.
Yeah. And it's just hilarious because I remember for example, our camera arm strap is really long. But it's just in case we get in a bigger tree. But it's like every single time we hunt, we're so high up in the tree that we have 10 feet, it feels like, of extra because we're so high and where the tree gets down to that big.
It's not that bad.
That big.
We are to the part of the tree where you can sway back and forth pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's Cole knows I'm scared of heights, and every time I stand up or something, he gives it a little shake.
Now listen, but I will say too, I'm a big advocate for lifelines.
Yep.
I have lifelines.
We always have lifelines.
Yeah, I've got lifelines in every spot. Man,
never not having a lifeline. So that is really good.
Yep. Lifelines in every spot.
Yep.
So it's even when it's sketchy climbing, you know what I mean? You're hooked in.
Yep.
And we're lifelining up and down.
Yep.
So if you're gonna flip a ball, or if I am kind of razzing you in the stand and trying to make it sway, you're connected in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to make sure we say that. I'm a huge advocate for lifelines. I'm a huge advocate for harnesses.
Yep, everything.
I mean, we joke about, I think that gravity is the invisible enemy to every bow hunter.
Yep.
I think that when you fall, gravity does the same thing to everybody. It just takes you straight down.
Yep, exactly.
And I think we've all got too much going on to have something like that happen. I know of people that have been severely injured, paralyzed. It sucks.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Lifeline it up.
Definitely.
Public service announcement. If you don't have one, go get one. They're actually reflective too. You can get reflective ones. Pretty awesome to be able to find where your stand is too.
Yep.
But anyway, so getting back to it. So I set stands high. I set them in the right spot, not the right tree. So sometimes it's sketchy.
Yeah.
And in the tree stands, you just haven't been able to get very comfortable.
Yeah.
And then I kind of think that's kind of funny. So there are times.
Yeah. It's terrible.
Oh my goodness. I have to tell that story. The best one of all. This one isn't even that, okay, it's kind of high, but it's on a little bit of a hill. So the one side, it's not that bad, but you look off the other side and it's feels like the one side you're 18 feet. The middle stand. The middle stand. The one where you punch a tree.
I don't want to tell the story.
Oh, dude, I have to tell it.
Don't tell the story.
Oh, come on.
Please.
Oh, come on. It's not even that bad.
Yeah, it is. It's embarrassing.
No, it was so funny, dude. That was the best.
Fine.
But it's the key to the story is the fact that I can tell when you're getting uncomfortable because you start to shake. And I don't think it's a shake of it's like everything it's like a tremor. It's like an earthquake. You could
so embarrassing.
You could just feel it. I can feel the trees start to vibrate and your hands start to kind of shake. And I don't think that you're scared, but I don't know what's going on. But you just have a vibration and you know it. So, but the whole idea is that So we first were doing a normal stand, and that wasn't working. Then we thought, well, hey, you felt better when you were in a saddle with Midwest Whitetail. Well, so you have a tethered setup, right? So you're running the Phantom saddle. You have an XL platform, right? Yeah. So it's like, let's tether it up. Like, let's saddle hunt. Like, do that. Yeah. I've already got stands in here. So we go to this middle spot, and you're like, this is a spot I'm gonna saddle it up. And I'm like, perfect. And I have usually been climbing up, setting the stand, climbing back down. Then you climb up, you know, depending usually because you have to climb from one to the other. And then there we go. Well, this time you're like, no, dude, I want to set the platform. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yep, I do. I'm like, okay. So you get up there and you do your thing and you got it set up. You know what I mean?
It was a struggle though. The tree kind of has a weird angle to it, especially where I was putting it, and it was kicking out so bad, and I could not get it. Well, I finally got it after I made a ton of noise. Cole told me that he read a chapter of his book while I was doing it.
I literally sat down on my backpack and just was like reading on my phone. And I would just look up every once in a while like this. I go, in the pitch dark, I could just hear him up there. He was getting so mad. And this is what happens. This is what it says. I laugh. I mean, all you can do is laugh. That's the only thing you can do. Because it does not.
And so the moral of the story is I get it all set up. I'm in the saddle. Cole climbs up the tree. And he gets really mad at me because I guess I tore his seat. I didn't even realize it, but I guess I did.
So no, the story to that part is I wasn't even that mad. I just was like, whoa.
You were mad.
What did I say?
I can't say it.
I think I said, why did you rip my effing seat?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
And I said,
so here's what happened. So the seat is like, now granted, it's an old tree stand. And I shouldn't have lost my cool at you because it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. But it was just like, it was a combination of it took you forever to set the saddle.
Yes.
And then it was starting to get light and I didn't have any of my clothes on yet. And I'm like, now we're trying to rush.
Yeah.
And but basically what happened is the saddle or the muddy stand, had like those, I don't even know what you call it. Mesh type seat, right? Well, in the one corner of it, the right-hand corner, it had ripped just a little bit. Well, when you were setting the saddle, instead of flipping the seat up, you were like leaning into the seat with your legs.
Yeah.
So it was ripped like this much. Well, now it's ripped like this much, and I can't unrip it, right? I can't like easily connect it back together. And it's like that webbing. That's kind of the negative thing about those web seats is once they rip, like maybe they sell replacements. I don't know. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
But I was like, God, really? Like this is the seat. I'm trying to sit on it, and it's all ripped.
Yeah.
So that I lost my cool, and then that made you mad. You know.
Well, I wasn't mad at that point because I was like, well, I mean, I screwed up, but like I did not try to, and I didn't realize it.
I know.
But when it really screwed me up was when I was taking everything down.
Oh yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I can't put the seat down because I'll rip it more. So I left the seat up and I tried getting my bag between my legs and the seat, and I couldn't get the saddle in there. And if the seat would have just been down, I could have just set my bag on the seat and put it on there. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, I don't want to get chewed out again, so I'm just gonna leave it up and try and wiggle it down in there. But I couldn't get it down in there, and the stand is like at a really weird angle, so like I'm constantly leaning forward.
That muddy stand, I couldn't adjust the angle of the stand. Like what's great about those Novik stands is like you can adjust the angle of the platform.
Yeah,
that stand didn't have that, so it was definitely angled up.
Yeah.
So when you stood on there, your feet were kind of like. Yeah. So when you turned around, you were kind of like, ugh, and you kind of like leaned right into the tree.
Leans you right into the tree. Well, I have my big, huge bag with all the camera gear on it, extra clothes, and so I couldn't get the thing on there, and I couldn't put my bag anywhere, and so I was just really struggling. And I looked down at Cole, and he's just sitting there just laughing at me.
I was
laughing. I'm like, well, that's awesome. So I punched the tree.
You punched it, dude.
Yeah, I punched the tree because there's nothing worse than that because Cole's so perfect at everything.
No, I'm not. No,
yes,
I'm not. No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
And you know what? And I think we have different definitions of getting chewed out. Because if I at all say any comment to you, you're like, "Oh, you're chewing me out."
That is not true.
Yes, it is.
No, that was the only time that you actually really truly chewed me out.
That's good.
Well,
You're a little sensitive.
except for last week, there was one time you got really, really mad at me.
You're a little sensitive.
You told me that I was sitting on the ground doing nothing with my thumb up my butt. And I was like, really, in my mind, I'm like, okay, do this now so he doesn't get angry when I'm up there. So I'm just going to,
angry.
Not get angry, get annoyed with me up there.
But that's what you say.
I'm just going to get this ready now while he's doing his thing. Well, I don't know. The stand got hung up or something. I'm like, I just can't do anything right.
No, there was a stupid branch, and he hooks the stand up to the bow rope, and he hooks it up, and then he's like over here doing something else. Well, I go to pull it up, and just the way that it sat, there was like a branch right there. So I tried to kind of like swing it the best I could.
Yeah.
And then I pulled it, but it was already stuck in the branch.
Yeah.
Like it was like there was a Y and it got past the Y.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't get it out from under there.
Yeah.
So I was like, crap. So I'm trying to pull it up and I just couldn't get it. And I was like, trying not to make much noise. So I pulled it and I really pulled it. And I was like, then I like really pulled, like, I tried to like break the branch and I couldn't break it. And I just look at you down there. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm like struggling, And so I was like, so I like quietly yelled at you. I'm like, hey, like, grab stand, whatever you're doing, just stop. Whatever I said, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I guess I yelled at you.
Yeah, because I felt really bad in the moment because normally I'm there, but I was like, okay, we've done this stand before. Like, you can just pull it right up. And so I went over and I was working on something else. I was like really focused on it. I didn't even know what was going on. I just figured he just pulled it up.
I know. Yeah. So that we're getting way off subject.
Yeah, but anyways. So yeah, I'm really bad at what I do, but it's whatever.
No, it's
so
just
recently,
you're not comfortable, right? You just can't get comfortable. That's what 100% boils down to.
Yeah.
We thought you'd get comfortable in a normal stand. That didn't work.
Yeah.
We thought we could get you comfortable in a saddle.
Well, we only tried it one time.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with the saddle is that the saddles work great, but the platform's so small. And with all the gear that you're carrying, I mean, we'll show some video of your backpack.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane because you're carrying 2 mirrorless cameras. You're carrying 2 good size lenses. You're carrying 2 GoPros. You're carrying, it's just a lot of gear.
Yeah.
You're carrying shotgun mics, extra
Camera
batteries,
arms,
camera arm, the bases. It's just a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And so your bag is big. So like with a saddle platform, it's hard to find a place to kind of have that sitting.
Yeah.
So then, after the punching the tree incident, which you really lost your cool.
Yeah.
And I was just
Yeah,
laughing.
Yep.
Man, that was funny. Then you climbed down, and then I just think I laughed most of the way back.
Mm-hmm.
But for the record, I don't think I get that angry at you. I think you blow it out of proportion.
It feels like you get angry.
I think it's the look on my face.
Yeah.
I don't think my words are that angry. It's just probably my tone.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it is everything.
It's just, there's been multiple times where you've said stuff to me and it really hit deep.
I said something to you yesterday when you were sick.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but whatever it was like, wow. One time he told me, he dropped me off at my house and he just rolls down the window and he goes, hey, just want to let you know, you're just bad at doing things. I was like, okay.
That was a joke. You're making me out to be a villain over here. That was a joke. Oh, but to get back, we digress.
Yeah.
So what we ended up figuring out is this whole new style of hunting that we're calling saddle standing. So what we've done is we have combined tree stand hunting with saddle hunting to create saddle standing.
Yeah. Now let me explain.
So what that basically means is we take a Novix stand, set up the Novix stand first. Then you climb up like you're saddle hunting and just use the tree stand as your platform and use the seat as kind of like your workbench to be able to put your backpack on and do all the stuff that you have to do before you kind of get your bag set off to the side.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what that really has allowed you to do is we have, and a lot of times you kind of have the natural tendency when you're filming to have a hunter stand pointing this way and have the cameraman stand kind of, if this is at 12 o'clock, you would have the cameraman stand at either like 2 o'clock
Yeah.
or 10 o'clock
Yeah.
or 9 or 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of at a 45-degree angle off to one side or the other. So you're over their shoulder.
Yeah.
That kind of look. But that's been really tough. Like that hasn't really worked.
Yeah.
It works in some situations, but just hasn't worked for our setups.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about this whole saddle standing is now we kind of set your tree stand on the opposite side of the tree if we can, as kind of as far from mine as we can. So if mine's at 12, yours is at 6.
Yeah.
Mine's at 12, yours is at 5, or 12 and 7. We're sitting it on the other side. And then what you do is you basically just stand like you're saddle hunting.
Yeah.
And then you can have the camera on in such a way that it can swing on either side of the tree, basically between your saddle setup, your hip, and the tree.
Yeah.
So you can swing either side. It really gives you a lot more versatility.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's kind of the reason. Well, there's 2 reasons behind using the stand is I can get way back on the stand and I have plenty of room to fit the camera under my bridge and tether. So it's just one movement just to go whoop right to the other side of the tree. If a deer's coming this side, I can film it. If it gets in a bad spot where Cole's drawing on it, I can say, hang on a second. It's just one smooth motion right to the other side where I can have all the rest to film.
yeah.
And so the being in the tree stand with that bigger platform has really helped a lot because I can get back, I can move quietly and, more smooth. And then having the seat has been huge because I can pull, I have my bag and then I slide in like a, it's called a camera cube. And I put the cameras in the camera cube. Well, I just pull the camera cube out and just set it right on the seat and it's right there. I can plug in mics. I can
Do everything
right there, and it's all right in front of me, and it's really quickened up our process like a lot.
Yeah, because when we first talked about doing it, I thought, man, this is just going to be even more stuff. But in all reality, it's not really anything more.
Yeah.
Because instead of wearing a normal safety harness, you're just wearing your saddle.
Yeah.
The way that you hook into the lifeline is a little different, but that's no big deal.
I just clip into my bridge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're clipping in your bridge, so you're still connected.
Yeah.
And then we would be setting up, if we did it just tree stand with tree stand, you would be setting up that anyway.
Same thing.
Yeah, so you're kind of doing the same thing, but it, like you said, the biggest thing I think, like I said, being a videographer and then watching you do it now is I always felt like it's always hard to have the freedom to move around and have the freedom of your hands to do things.
Yeah.
And I think that this idea really helps work through that.
Yeah.
And on a lot of these places on this private land too, what we've been able to do is the Ozonics overmold tree screw.
Yeah.
With the smart arm. The cool thing about that too is you have been putting one of those when you first get up, you just put one in right in the tree, which is kind of at the right height. So when you get up there, once you climb up and you're on the platform, you would put up your tether, and then you just take that overmold tree screw, put it in, and put another one over here. Then when you pull your backpack up, it just instantly goes right on that hook.
Yeah.
And now your backpack can really just sit there. It's not going to move at all.
Yeah.
It's nice because it still sits on the seat for the weight of it, but it's still connected. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Because you're always inherently having to kind of put weight against the pack, against the tree to not let it fall.
Just so it doesn't fall.
Well, now you just take your tethered carabiner.
Yeah.
Because you have 2 of them, and you just connect that onto your backpack. It sits right on that overmold tree screw. Then when you're done with your backpack, take it off there. It goes right on this hook over here.
Yeah.
And
then you're done.
1, 2, 3, we're good.
Yeah.
So it has really sped things up and made things a lot quieter.
Yeah.
It works pretty good.
Yeah.
So again, sounds crazy, but if you're kind of struggling through that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, and again, you can never control where the animal ends up.
Yeah. Exactly.
It stinks though when you do watch videos and you're watching that buck walk in and then he stops behind a tree.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
But sometimes part of the problem is that a cameraman, the videographer, only has so much ability to move so far with an arm.
Yeah.
Because you usually have to kind of set up for, okay, because we're doing that. Yeah. Well, which way? Are we setting up over here? We set up over here. What are we going to do? And then you don't want to be in my way, or I don't want you in my way, and you don't want to, where it's like I'm drawing and I'm hitting you, or, it's like that stinks.
Yeah.
And we've had that too. Mm-hmm. So this whole idea of setting the hunter stand at 12 o'clock and setting the videographer stand at 5, 6, 7 o'clock on the other side, and doing this whole saddle standing where you can move on each side, man, that's really created a lot more versatility for us.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But it's working out good.
Yeah.
I mean, and most importantly, you're comfortable.
Yeah.
It's been a night and day difference. It's like a switch got flipped, which is so weird from my perspective because I think standing on a platform, I feel secure, that I'm standing on a platform. But you feel more comfortable kind of like standing on the platform, but like kind of leaning back and hanging off.
Yeah.
Because you kind of grew more accustomed to feeling comfortable in a saddle.
Yeah.
I inherently have always been a tree stand hunter. So saddle hunting at first made me feel very like, oh.
Yeah.
Which I think I felt that way out of a climber stand too.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, geez, this is weird. Like, this just holding on by a rubber band type thing.
Yeah,
I don't know about this. But then you get secure in that too. So, but I think this has been kind of a good in between.
Yeah. Yeah.
Been able to make it work.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. I think it's just having that constant tension kind of.
Yep.
You just know you're not going anywhere.
Yep.
But it's funny though, because like before when we'd be up there, I would try and stand up, and I would get stood up, but I would almost always kind of have to be like kind of just touching the tree, just whatever. But the other day, I stood up on the platform, and there was no tension on any of my saddle, and I was just standing there. I stood there for like a couple minutes. All of a sudden, I'm like, what the heck am I doing right now? I'm like, this is really weird. Like, normally I'm freaking out, but it's just something about it. I don't know what it is, but it's been working really good. Yeah, I think.
As long as we can keep you from getting the shakes, because once you get shaky, it was downhill from there.
Yeah.
Tree punching and all sorts of stuff happens.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And then I overreact and I yell at you and call you some sort of mean name.
Yeah.
I don't think I call you mean names, but I think from now on I'm going to start calling you obscure things and then see if you say that I'm calling you mean name. Like I'm going to call you like a bologna sandwich one time and be like, you called me a bologna sandwich.
Yeah.
If you were a sandwich, you might be a bologna sandwich.
Whoa.
I think if I was a sandwich, I'd probably be like a BLT. BLTs are good. I could really go for a BLT.
I could go for something. I haven't had lunch yet.
Me neither.
Starving.
Well, listen, I think we wrap it up there. Listen, I know I'm going back on this, but I'm telling you, this saddle standing, there might be somebody listening to this that's going to go, you know what? That's right up my alley.
Yeah.
We went through some different names, and I think saddle standing is what you call it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it, I mean, a lot of people are probably like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but I don't really care.
Yeah, see, that's
because it works great for me.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm pretty much the guy that doesn't really care what people think.
Yeah.
Pretty much, or not pretty much. I just don't.
Yeah.
So
I tell you what, when they're not going to care, when you get 180 and just pinwheeled and it's just crispy fudge, that's when you're not going to care.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to care, and I laugh about it. I've been laughing about it every time we've set it up that way. And you're like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, I don't know, it's just funny. It's kind of funny. Yeah. I think I laugh at it because it's funny, and I laugh at it because I think saddle standing sounds funny.
Yeah.
But I won't laugh, like you said, when are you on it? And you're like, yep. Because even when these deer have come in here these last times we've hunted, I can hear you back there being like, okay, is he going to come to the left or the right? And I know that you have the ability to move on that. Yeah. Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
There isn't really a situation where you're like, oh, I don't think I can shoot here.
No.
It's giving you the ability. It's really opened things up a lot more.
Yeah. Unless if it's directly behind you, which is like, you're kind of giving that up anyways.
Anyway,
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I think we wrap it up. Good podcast.
Good pod.
I don't even know what number we're at. Number 28?
This will be 29.
Holy cow, 29.
Yep.
Well, I think the moral of the story is the rut is in full swing. If you have the chance, get out there. Talked about some cool trail cam stuff that we've been seeing. We put some pictures up, some video up of that. It's kind of neat. And we talked about just a little bit about how we're doing things.
Yeah.
You made me feel bad. You made me feel like I'm really, really mean to you, which I don't think I am.
You made me feel really dumb. And I'm really embarrassed to post this. But
well, it's like they say, there's not dumb questions. There's just dumb people.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's what I mean. That hit deep.
It's because you're sensitive. I think you are. Hey, listen, I'm sensitive. It's okay. You can be sensitive.
I feel bad because I don't know. I feel bad about all the bad things I've done.
Don't. It is what it is. hey, we're figuring it out. It only took a couple months, but we got her figured out.
Yep.
We're dialed in.
Yep. Ready for this post rut swing.
All right. Thanks for listening. Like I said, I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
That's it. End of the podcast. Ozonics Killerwinds podcast. Over and out.
See you next week.
Stay classy, San Diego.